So today, Danielle and I talked about what we've learned on our public Facebook Live. If you're not friends with us, make sure you friend us, and then you can watch that too. Because we're talking to people, but hopefully, we start some conversations that realtors would like to get involved in too. So um, we'd love to have you there. And Danielle did her CE this past week, so she learned a whole lot. So we started out talking about fair housing. You took the, was it a fair housing? What was the name of the class?
It was, I have it right here. Fair housing, stay out of trouble, make a difference.
Yeah. So we all want to stay out of trouble, but that make a difference part, I think, is what we all really take to heart. We have I don't ever want to, overstate what we do, but honestly, I don't think you can. When you think about, people are always like, oh, you're not doctors. Stop comparing yourself to doctors and lawyers. No, we actually, we might not be tinkering around with people's insides, but we set the stage for where they live their life and help them attain truly their life goals. I think that's pretty big. I think it's pretty important. And I think it's really important that we do it well and we do it fairly. And sometimes good meaning people can make mistakes and think that they're, what they're doing is okay. And so we need these classes, we need these laws to remind us it's not always easy. Sometimes there's shades. When we advocate for our clients, we want to talk about everything that we love about them. Some of those things might not be appropriate conversations to have, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, and the fair housing was a big eye opener for me. I mean, of course, I know about fair housing. I understand about the rules of the protected classes and things like that. But there were some statistics that they were talking about in some instances that really made me sad, where it came to some minorities or previously, held down. Demographics, and it was sad to see the repercussions of things just as recently as the 50s, until 1960s, 64, 68. There was a lot going on to prevent all Americans from being able to encounter the American dream, right? It's been called the American dream for that and longer. And there was so much out there preventing it. So, we need to do a better job of getting out there and explaining home ownership it can be for everybody. And just because today you might not, one person might not be able to be eligible for a loan, doesn't mean that without the correct steps that it can't be something in the future for them. Because
and I think that's something too, Danielle, we've been faced often. And I think, as we're talking to realtors, we all would like to improve our price points. That's a way to get paid more, right? But it's almost like, again, I'm going to compare us to attorneys, like doing work pro bono. Sometimes we have people who need a home and their budget is not very big. So we need to find ways to accommodate that and make sure that we're helping this sector of the community that needs us even more than everybody else does. And we know too, just, from our own actual personal business experience, that oftentimes those people trade that house, trade that condo down the road and also, refer to other people. So it can turn into something that's quite lucrative. But I think we often need to go back to, what are we really here for? Yes, we get paid. That's awesome. And I'm all about the getting paid part, but what we do is really important too. So when we remember that and we think about how to do that best, I think it takes some of the muddiness out of it. And then we talked about how our code of ethics, came from realtors doing some pretty crappy things. Fair housing laws came about through the same stuff. I was just talking to somebody the other day about the blockbusting days in America, where realtors really spearheaded. They saw all this opportunity to peddle fear and get everybody to sell their house, because they wanted everybody to, look like them. So,
I mean, Lynn showed us the literal redlining of the city and the different color reds and what it meant. Like, it was in the type, it was typed up. You could tell it was old because of the way it was typed. And, this is what was okay to give loans in this area. And this was what loans were okay in this area. And it was just so sad to see those barriers when Ruth and I, and hopefully those watching, their goal is to put everybody and anybody who can into a home, if that's their best interest, to do so. And the idea that we were putting barriers in front of people for no good reason is just really,
Yeah. And so out of that came the fair housing laws, but also came the Realtor Code of Ethics, which used to look very different, as Danielle was saying. It used to be seen as ethical to do some of those things. But hopefully we've grown as a society, and now our Code of Ethics is all about protecting everybody. And we think, Danielle and I are members of NAR. We're going to stay members of NAR. There's a lot of talk these days. There's a lot of, the dues. If you can't pay a few
$1,000 for the year,
company that represents all of us across the nation. Now, I'm not saying they're perfect. There's a lot of things that I think they need to do better on. The violation of ethics at the very top was a big one. That's not easy to swallow, but to me, that doesn't mean we just scrap it and tear it all down and turn into chaos. I think they could definitely do a much better job of telling the public who we are and what we do. That's their slogan these days, is who we are with an R. I think they spend a lot more time worrying about who's not capitalizing realtor or mispronouncing it than they do letting people know that they need to hire us.
That we're invaluable.
Yeah.
In this process.
But that's on us too. So that's, Danielle and I, that's part of why we do this segment to the public. We're trying to teach people what we're all about and raise the bar in real estate and show people that we have value and reiterate that. So hopefully everybody who's listening to this is on board with that and doing the same thing. And then that brings us to the last piece we talked about, which is exactly that. Why do people need us? I think, I just see so much now, and I know there's a lot of noise and everyone's trying to cut through it and everyone's trying to get that one more lead and figure out how to feed our families. This market's been rough on most of us. But I think we need to sit back and listen to what's being perceived. I'm still seeing a whole lot of, I sold this in 4 hours with 17 offers, and I don't know who that's helping. I know, in a tough market, to say I did above and beyond and this went really well is great. I suppose that a lot of people are looking and saying, sellers are going to see that and they're going to think I'm really good at what I do. But I think what's happening is it's making people afraid. It's, those sellers need to go buy something. And so.
Yes. Once you decide you're going to sell, where are you going to buy? And now the house is sold within 15 minutes. And now you're up against the wall. Now if you didn't have a plan, what are you going to do? And so then people don't make that call.
Right. So I think that, we want to go back and kind of check our messaging. And the biggest thing right now, our biggest threat right now is people who don't think they need us. I just had a consultation with someone who was very impressed with the consultation. Their previous realtor did nothing like that. They felt like they learned so much and didn't sign the agreement. I think it's because all of the other messages coming at them are, click a button, buy a house. And I was telling them we have a process. So, everybody gets to run their business however they want to. But I think when you're thinking about what do I want to tell people, let's really tell them, what we do for them and why they ought to think about it. Now, I was just also saying that yesterday I had a client who said, and I said this publicly, but I didn't say that the second part. He said, you're like a psychiatrist. You should charge more. It was like, I agree, but we have some attorneys who think that we make too much. So the reason people think we make too much is because we say I did 15 minutes worth of work and I made 25,000.
Right. It took me a minute and a half.
Stop it.
And that was that. I put a sign in the yard. As I was putting a sign in the yard, somebody said, let me buy that house. And I said, fine. And
brought a dump truck and just dumped the cash on the lawn.
they had the cash with them.
Seller came out and picked it up.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And let's be honest, right? Like you said, even if I sold that house with 17 offers in 25 minutes, that's no guarantee to get to the closing table.
Right.
Getting to the closing table is the impressive part. Making sure every single piece of that, every person came together in that transaction, every moving piece moved along with minimal hiccups, hopefully, maybe some huge hiccups, but you got back on track and you got to that. That's the impressive part.
Exactly.
That's the impression part. So.
Yeah. And that's the part that, they leave out of HGTV. They get left out of social media posts, all of the gimmicks, all of the splashiness. It might get eyeballs, but is it helping move us forward? So, probably. All right. Well, we'll see you next week, and drop a comment if you think we're crazy or agree with what we had to say. Maybe we need to fight more, Danielle.
Oh, you and I?
Yeah. They always have drama on the TV shows.
They do, don't they? Let's see. Well, I'm certainly not going to say that I don't think we need the code of ethics in fair housing. So maybe next week.
Maybe you could just pull my hair.
Okay. Throw your glasses across the room.
Yes.
Right. You're my competition, Ruth. I don't like you.
See you next week. Danielle and I will be the real realtors of the Western suburbs.
Yes, there you go. See you then.
Bye.